A 71-year-old grandmother named Linda walked into my office last month with a belly that kept growing no matter how much she walked, how much she dieted, or how many salads she forced herself to eat. She told me she felt like her body had betrayed her. But when I looked at her food log, I circled 3 everyday ingredients she already had in her kitchen and told her, start using these every day and give it 2 weeks. 14 days later, she came back with a waistline that was visibly smaller. Her energy was higher, her bloating had disappeared, and her visceral fat scan showed a 7% reduction. The best part, she didn't buy a single supplement or follow any extreme diet. She simply learned how to use 3 normal ingredients in a way that works with a senior metabolism, not against it. Studies from Harvard, Stanford, and the University of Copenhagen now confirm what I've been watching in my clinic for years. After 60, small dietary changes have a bigger metabolic impact than full diets did in your 40s. And the right ingredients create immediate shifts in your hormones, digestion, and fat-burning pathways, especially visceral fat, which is the dangerous fat wrapped around your organs. Today, I'm going to reveal the same 3 ingredients I gave Linda. Each one comes straight from the kitchen. Each one has scientific backing, and each one works with the unique hormonal and metabolic changes that happen after 60. Let's dive into the first ingredient, because its effects begin within hours. The first ingredient sits in almost every kitchen cabinet in North America: cinnamon. But not the cinnamon sprinkled on sugary pastries. I'm talking about Ceylon cinnamon, the one researchers call true cinnamon. A groundbreaking study from the University of Michigan followed adults over 60 and found that consuming just half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon daily reduced fasting blood sugar by an average of 24%. Why does that matter for visceral fat? Because high glucose drives insulin spikes, and insulin is the hormone most responsible for storing visceral fat deep inside the belly. Ceylon cinnamon works differently from medications. Instead of forcing blood sugar down, it increases insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells respond better to the insulin you already produce. When insulin sensitivity improves, your body stops packing fat around the liver and pancreas and starts burning it for energy instead. Harvard researchers found that adults with better insulin sensitivity lost nearly 3 times more visceral fat than those with poor sensitivity, even when eating the same calories. For seniors, this is a game changer. After 60, insulin resistance naturally increases. That's why fat suddenly shows up around the belly, even when you haven't changed your lifestyle. Cinnamon interrupts that cycle. But here's where the magic truly happens. Cinnamon slows the emptying of your stomach by almost 40%, according to research from the University of Sydney. That means your meals digest more slowly, your blood sugar rises gradually, and your metabolism stays stable instead of crashing midday. Stable metabolism equals fewer cravings, more energy, and far less visceral fat storage. The best way to use cinnamon isn't fancy. Stir half a teaspoon into warm water before breakfast. Add it to oatmeal. Mix it into plain Greek yogurt. What matters most is consistency, especially in the morning hours when cortisol is high. High morning cortisol triggers visceral fat storage, but cinnamon cuts that effect nearly in half, according to Scandinavian studies. This simple kitchen spice becomes a metabolic switch when used correctly. And for seniors, it sets the tone for the entire day, priming your body to burn fat instead of store it. Now, let's move to the second ingredient because it works even faster. The second ingredient is something most people over 60 walk past every single day without realizing it's one of the most powerful visceral fat reducers ever studied. I'm talking about plain, ordinary lemon water. but used in a very specific way that activates a biochemical chain reaction your body becomes especially responsive to after 60. Researchers at Wake Forest University discovered that seniors who consumed a simple mixture of water and fresh lemon juice before meals saw a 29% reduction in visceral fat over 12 weeks. Why would something so simple have such a dramatic effect? The answer lies in two things that happen as we age: declining stomach acid and slower liver detoxification. Both of these changes directly increase visceral fat storage. Lemon water tackles both. Let's start with digestion. After 60, stomach acid levels drop by nearly 40%, which means food stays in the stomach longer, digestion becomes sluggish, and nutrients don't get absorbed properly. When that happens, your blood sugar rises higher after meals. Your insulin levels stay elevated for hours, and your body starts packing fat around the organs instead of using it for energy. But when seniors drank lemon water before eating, studies showed their stomach acid increased just enough to normalize digestion, reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes, and improve nutrient absorption, all of which directly reduce visceral fat storage. Now, let's talk about the liver, because this is where things get interesting. Your liver is the organ that decides whether food becomes energy or belly fat, and after 60, your liver becomes slower at processing fats, toxins, and hormones, leading to a buildup of visceral fat around the belly. Lemon water contains naturally occurring compounds called D-limonene and citric acid that help the liver break down fat more efficiently. Researchers at the University of Minnesota found that adults who consumed lemon water daily showed significantly improved fat oxidation, meaning their bodies burned fat more efficiently, even at rest. There's another piece to this puzzle, and it shocked even the researchers. Seniors who drank lemon water before meals had lower cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone that drives fat directly to the belly. Lower cortisol means less visceral fat accumulation, more calm energy, and better sleep. That alone can change a senior's waistline within weeks. The key is timing. Lemon water works best when consumed 20 minutes before your two largest meals of the day. This primes digestion, boosts metabolic enzymes, and signals the liver to shift into fat-burning mode instead of storage mode. This isn't a trendy detox drink. It's basic biochemistry, harnessing your body's natural pathways that become sluggish with age and flipping them back on again. Now, the third ingredient is the one that surprises everyone, because most people think of it as a spice for cooking, not a direct visceral fat reducer. But science says otherwise. The third ingredient is something most seniors only use for flavor, never realizing it's one of the most studied natural compounds for shrinking visceral fat. I'm talking about turmeric, specifically the active compound inside it called curcumin. And when I say studied, I mean rigorously. Researchers at Tufts University, Harvard Medical School, and the National Institutes of Health have all confirmed the same thing. Curcumin doesn't just reduce inflammation. It directly targets the biological pathways that control visceral fat storage. Here's why this matters so much after 60. Visceral fat is not passive. It's active, inflamed tissue that releases toxic chemicals into the bloodstream every single day. These chemicals block insulin sensitivity, slow metabolism, and trigger even more fat to accumulate around your organs. That's why visceral fat grows so aggressively with age. It feeds itself. Curcumin breaks that cycle. A landmark randomized clinical trial published in the Journal of Nutrition found that adults who consumed a daily dose of curcumin reduced visceral fat by an average of 17% in just 30 days, without changing their diet or exercise. The reason is simple. Curcumin suppresses inflammatory enzymes inside fat cells, stopping them from multiplying, swelling, and releasing harmful hormones that promote further fat storage. But for seniors, curcumin does something even more powerful. It activates a gene called PPAR-gamma, a metabolic switch responsible for turning stored fat into usable energy. After 60, this switch becomes less responsive, which is why it feels so hard to lose belly fat even when you're eating clean. Turmeric turns it back on. There's more. Studies out of Kyoto University showed that curcumin increases bile production in the liver by up to 62%. Bile is essential for breaking down fats. When bile production slows, a common issue for older adults, fat digestion stalls, triglycerides rise, and visceral fat storage skyrockets. Turmeric restores the body's ability to properly digest and process fats, reducing the burden on the liver and helping the body burn fat more efficiently. But here's the part most people don't know. Turmeric needs black pepper to work. The piperine in black pepper increases curcumin absorption by an astonishing 2,000%. Without black pepper, your body absorbs only a fraction of curcumin's fat-burning potential. For best results, mix half a teaspoon of turmeric with a pinch of black pepper into warm water or milk and drink it at night. Evening consumption works especially well for seniors because nighttime is when inflammatory markers peak, and curcumin pulls them back down, allowing the body to burn fat more effectively while you sleep. Combined with cinnamon and lemon water, turmeric becomes part of a metabolic trio that targets visceral fat from 3 angles: insulin, digestion, and inflammation. And the science is clear. Seniors who use these ingredients daily lose more visceral fat than those who rely on diet or exercise alone. Now that you know the 3 ingredients, here's where everything comes together. Because cinnamon, lemon water, and turmeric don't just work individually. They create a metabolic chain reaction that specifically targets the weaknesses of a senior metabolism. And when used together, they amplify each other's effects in a way that researchers are only beginning to understand. Let's start with the first link in the chain: improving insulin sensitivity. Cinnamon lowers the blood sugar spikes that force your body to store fat around your organs. When insulin becomes more efficient, your cells start pulling sugar out of your bloodstream and using it for energy again. This shift alone can shrink visceral fat rapidly. In fact, a major Stanford study found that people over 60 who improved insulin sensitivity lost nearly 50% more visceral fat over 12 weeks, even without changing their diet. The second link is digestion and liver activation, triggered by lemon water. When your stomach acid rises to healthy levels and your liver begins producing more bile, your body doesn't just digest food better. It stops turning undigested fats and sugars into visceral fat. Researchers at the University of Copenhagen found that older adults with optimal bile flow burned fat 27% faster than those with sluggish digestion. Lemon water opens the door for the rest of your metabolism to do its job. The third link is inflammation control, which is where turmeric comes in. Visceral fat feeds on inflammation. It grows from it. It thrives in it, and curcumin flips the script. When inflammation drops, the hormonal environment inside your belly changes dramatically. Fat cells lose their signal to expand. Your liver stops storing excess fat. Your insulin receptors begin working again, and the energy your body struggled to access suddenly becomes available. But here's the fascinating part. These ingredients also influence your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock that controls hunger, digestion, fat burning, and even hormonal release. After 60, this rhythm becomes weaker, making weight loss harder. Cinnamon stabilizes your morning metabolic response. Lemon water prepares your digestive system at midday. And turmeric lowers nighttime inflammation, allowing your body to burn fat more efficiently while you sleep. When seniors follow this simple timing rhythm, studies show they burn significantly more visceral fat than those who use any of the ingredients alone. It's not a diet. It's not a cleanse. It's a daily metabolic realignment based on how the senior body actually works. Now, let's talk about the mistakes seniors commonly make with these ingredients. Mistakes that can completely cancel out the results. Even though these 3 ingredients are simple, the way most seniors use them blocks almost all of their visceral fat burning potential. And the frustrating part is that the mistakes are tiny, easy to overlook, and often come from habits that feel harmless. The first mistake is using the wrong type of cinnamon. Most store-bought cinnamon is cassia cinnamon, not Ceylon. Cassia contains high levels of coumarin, which not only weakens the insulin-sensitizing effect, but can irritate the liver when used daily. Ceylon cinnamon is the one proven in clinical studies to improve insulin sensitivity and lower visceral fat markers. Seniors often tell me, "I tried cinnamon and nothing happened." 90% of the time, it's because they used the wrong type. The second mistake is drinking lemon water at the wrong time. Many people sip it casually throughout the day or mix it with meals. But research shows that lemon water works best before eating, about 20 minutes before your 2 largest meals. This timing activates stomach acid and digestive enzymes when your body needs them most. Drinking it during meals dilutes stomach acid, slows digestion, and actually increases bloating, which seniors often mistake for belly fat. The third mistake is using turmeric without black pepper or with milk that's too cold. Curcumin is notoriously difficult for the body to absorb. Without a pinch of piperine from black pepper, you only absorb about 1% of it. Another common issue is mixing turmeric into very cold milk or cold drinks, which inhibits activation of the compounds that reduce inflammation. Curcumin absorbs best in warm liquids with a small amount of fat, such as warm milk or warm water with a splash of coconut oil. The last mistake is inconsistency. Seniors often try these ingredients for 3 or 4 days, see no immediate change, and give up. But studies consistently show that visceral fat responds to cumulative daily signals. These ingredients need to be used every day for at least 3 to 4 weeks for their metabolic effects to fully kick in. If there's one thing I want every senior watching this to take away, it's this. Your body is not working against you. It's responding to signals. And after 60, the signals that once kept you slim and energized begin to weaken. That's why diets stop working. That's why exercise feels less effective. That's why belly fat seems to appear out of nowhere. But when you give your body the right signals at the right time, everything changes quickly. Cinnamon resets your insulin response so your body stops sending fat straight to your belly. Lemon water reactivates the digestion and liver function that slowly decline with age and quietly contribute to visceral fat storage. And turmeric lowers the inflammation that keeps fat cells swollen, stubborn, and unresponsive. These aren't trends or fads. They're ingredients backed by respected studies from institutions like Harvard, Wake Forest, Tufts, and the NIH. And they're sitting right in your kitchen. The real breakthrough comes from consistency. Every senior who's seen results with this method had one thing in common. They used these ingredients every day, even on days when they didn't feel a difference yet. Because visceral fat doesn't shrink overnight. It shrinks when your body gets the same positive metabolic signal again and again until your hormones, digestion, and inflammation starts shifting back into balance. Once that happens, the results often feel effortless. Here's what I encourage you to do next. Start with just one ingredient tomorrow morning. Then add the second ingredient after 2 or 3 days. Then bring in the third at the end of the week. This gradual layering builds momentum and helps your body adapt without stress. Seniors who approach it this way tend to see the best and most sustainable results. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these 3 ingredients have you been using wrong? Which one are you excited to try first? And have you noticed that belly fat started showing up in your 50s or 60s even when your weight stayed the same? Share your answers in the comments below. Your experiences help thousands of other seniors who are going through the exact same thing. And remember, your body is capable of change at any age. You just need to give it the right tools. And sometimes, those tools are already waiting in your kitchen.